It's the 12th of the 3rd, 2025. The time is 4 minutes past 8, and there is F1 news upon news. Couple topics on the docket over the next 10 minutes or less. We need to talk about Sky F1's lineup. They've released it brand new for 2025, and a lot of F1 fans are not happy. We need to talk about Liam Lawson's appearance on F1 Nation. So too Maximilian Verstappen's comments to Esquire. So too Helmut Marko's comments on Red Bull's chances of winning silverware. So too we'll try and talk about side pods and upgrades brought already to the Australian Grand Prix. Let's do Sky F1 first. Chat. Danica Patrick is not going anywhere. F1 fans were praying to the F1 gods that she will get her P45 by dint of her podcast where she discussed reptilian shapeshifters et al. Not to mention her political proclivities. Again, you can take that for whatever you will. We don't discuss politics on this channel. A new appointment, though, is one Jamie Chadwick. Apart from those two, their lineup remains unchanged. Some have been calling for Crofty's head, asking, no begging, that Alex Jakes replaces him as the play-by-play guy, not least because of the poor job that Crofty did as at the Monaco Grand Prix, where he should have doled up and spoken truth to the epic, seminal moment that was Charles Leclerc making good on a promise that he'd made to his deceased father. Oh, the humanity. Oh, and by the way, Liam Lawson, new Red Bull driver, alongside Maximilian Verstappen's given an interview with F1 Nation. Tom Clarkson, not a bad interview. I listen. I'm warming to that Liam Lawson fella, especially as we go into his inverted commas home Grand Prix. In that, there are a couple of highlights. I'll stick a link in the description. In there, he talks about balance of the car. He was asked the question, has the RB21 improved upon the RB20? He says broadly, I'm not so sure. There's no way of telling, but some bits felt better. It's like, hang on, how do you know that, chap? But to be fair, I'm sure he's done testing in the RB20 as well, hasn't he? In 2024. He spoke truth to his experience, saying something to this effect. Balance of the car appears to improve. The question then comes back as follows. Well, what do you mean by balance? He says, well, balance through the turn is a dynamic being. That balance as at turning, at apex, and on the exit of the turns requires different things from the car, different physics challenges. And you've got to optimize for each and all of those circumstances. Most pertinently, the most frequently occurring circumstance in 2025, which some say is medium to high speed turns. He tells the story of getting a text from Christian Horner telling him that he's got the role. It read, all good, keep this to yourself. Liam Lawson has the big job, but there's challenges ahead for that chap. The Kiwi needs to nail it right because, again, Red Bull will not be making the mistakes in 2025 that they made in 2024, which was, of course, giving Checo Perez, man formerly known as the Mexican Minister of Defense, far too much rope. Investing in underperformance PLC, hoping one day that a bad trade was going to turn good. Never throw good money after bad. Christian Horner, balls that are red, and hopefully they've learned that for this season, eh? So too, let's talk about Helmut Marko because he's chimed in talking about Red Bull's chances in 2025. Here's what the lad had to say. McLaren were clearly superior in testing. In short runs, they didn't show that. They drove out Sector 1 best time, Sector 2 boom best time, purple sector, and then they'd return to the pits, keen to hide their light under a bush or keep their cards very close to their chest. Helmut Marko says they were keen to conceal their true pace and true potential, and in that vein, I don't think Helmut Marko disagrees nor differs from F1 aficionados up and down the grid. Everyone to a man and a woman says that McLaren going into the first Grand Prix of the season as at Australia in only a couple of days' time, that they have the pace whip hand, and far for it to be me to disagree. However, you've heard Helmut Marko say something similar before over the past couple of weeks, that might ultimately not matter. This is a difference in extents and not kinds. How much quicker will Lando Norris be in that MCL39 than Maximilian Verstappen? Will he be quick enough to make sure that the two of them don't have to come together on track, that he doesn't have to fight a fire-breathing dragon in Max Verstappen for the same piece of tarmac? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the exam question for which Lando and Oscar, by the way, who we'll come to, will need to answer. It's going to get techie. Helmut Marko says that we have the joker in Max Verstappen, that Max can defeat the competition from McLaren and Ferrari and Mercedes even without a dominant car. And I don't think he's barking up the wrong tree, trap. I think he's on the money. The problem, the exam question for Lando and Oscar, I say again, will be how much quicker is that MCL39 than the RB21? For the avoidance of doubt, we said a gazillion times before, I would argue going into 2025 and beyond, if you're going to beat Max Verstappen in his pomp when he's had these Weetabix, you're going to need stuff. Fortuitous circumstances, a car that's quicker materially than his. You're going to need a team that's operating at its peak, making no unforced errors, making no mistakes of the unforced variety. Here's what we know going into the Grand Prix Australian. There's been a couple upgrades. There's been cooling on the Red Bull car. So too, deep undercut with a double curve. And the reason why I talk about this now is because some people, Red Bull fans, were still harbouring aspirations, hopes even, that they were going to bring a brand new car. So similar does the RB21 look to the RB20. We were told once, and they're telling us again now, Pierre Vacher and Christian Horner, that all of the development, all of the variable changes have happened underneath the RB21 iteration. It's the underside of the brand new flexuing. It's the underfloor Venturi tunnels. Why? Because they said in terms of downforce points, in absolute terms, last year's car was a good one. All they needed to do was two things. The first, broaden the operating window with a view to enhance the extent to which that car is drivable. Adrian Newey thesis, you would take off a couple of points in downforce if indeed that meant that you can enhance and or improve the extent to which a Max and or a Liam can drive that car. It's going to get techie. Mercedes already bringing upgrades in inverted commas, if that's a thing, focusing on that and the speed that they can carry through medium speed turns. It's going to get techie. Chat, by the way, Maximilian Verstappen has given an interview to Esquire. In that, he said some uncharacteristic things. Now, I don't know which way Max is going with these comments that I'm about to read to you, whether he's downplaying deliberately or whether these are true to form. Max Verstappen, as ever, nothing if not a true sayer. Here's what Max has said. The question comes, after winning so much, are you prepared to lose? Max says, of course. Do you always win? Question mark. No, I've won a lot throughout my career, but you always have to be prepared to lose because that's normal, and I'm prepared for that going into 2025. Oh, the humanity. Who is this dude that we're talking to? I never thought I would hear those words come out from Max Verstappen. We just saw on Drive to Survive, he said, I've always dreamt of being an F1 driver as my job, and I don't care what people say about me. I'm going to drive how I want to drive with a view to win races and therefore championships. Max Verstappen says, I want to win. The rest of it I don't care about. And that, some say, is the attitude that one Lando Norris, mate of one Maximilian Verstappen, will need to adopt going into 2025. Interesting that though from Max. I never thought I'd hear the day. Maybe Max is changing. Maybe he's now aware of the fact that he's soon to become a father, and maybe he's getting a bit old, long in the tooth, more mature, some say. We'll see in short order, right? Austria, not many sleeps away. Oh, by the way, we saw overnight that Oscar Piastri had announced, McLaren even had announced, that Oscar Piastri has signed a new contract running now to 2028 at the latest. Now, we talk about this, we encounter, pull threads as far as this topic is concerned, at the altar of priority in the driver hierarchy of the papaya-coloured team. It's 2025. These lot can't afford to dilly-dally, mess about at the altar of indecision and have themselves another Hungary or another Silverstone or another Austria or another Grand Prix like any of the aforementioned. They can't do it. They can't afford to do it if, again, they want to repeat in the constructors or have Lando win the all-important drivers. However, if Oscar Piastri has been given a pay rise, an extended contract, something that Lando hasn't gotten yet, not just yet, what does that mean for priority? Who is the number one driver really? I don't care what Zach Brown says about we have two number one drivers. What are you talking about, chap? Saying that that's the McLaren way. We always race like that. Please see as your Exhibit A, Prost and Senna in 88 and 89. Well, how did that work out, Zach? Yeah, one of them still won the championship, 89 Prost, 88 Senna, of course. But that was when both of them had the most dominant car to ever be in F1 at the bloody time. That's what they were dealing with then. I'm not sure McLaren will have that going into 2025. It's a question, no a mode of discourse. Now we find out that Oscar Piastri's new contract entitles him to an absolute SH1T load of cash. His previous rumoured salary per Autosport was 4.5 million. I'm going to read out all of the bods to you so you know where this dude stands. Your cheapest, if that's even a word that I can leverage, your cheapest or lowest paid driver currently on the grid in 2025, Isaac Hadjar, 0.5 million. Doohan comes next, same salary. Lawson on 1 million. Behrman on 1 million. Antonelli's on 2. Oh, the humanity. Yuki Tsunoda then on 2 million. Bartoletto the same. Stroll on 3. How that works out, I have no clue. Ocon on 7 million. Hulkenberg also on 7 million. No mention of Oscar Jack Piastri yet. You're going to climb higher. Much higher. Alex Albon next on 8 million. Gasly on 10. Sainz on 10 million. George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk on 15. No mention of Oscar Piastri just yet. Fernando Alonso comes next. Man from Oviedo, Astoria on 20 million. Then you have yourselves Lando Norris on 20 million. And then you have yourselves Oscar Jack Piastri also on 20 million. Shortly after that, you've got Leclerc on 34, Lewis on 60 and Max on 65. Hang on 1 second, chat. You mean to tell me that now, as at March 2024, you mean to tell me that Lando Norris is getting paid the same money as Oscar Piastri? What? How does that even work? Lando Norris, the man who could very nearly have won the championship, man who absolutely destroyed Oscar Piastri 20-4, if I recall correctly, in qualifying in 2024. How does that work out if they don't think that Oscar Piastri's ceiling as far as his unfulfilled potential is materially higher than that of Lando Norris? This chat is techie. I think this changes the landscape in real time going into 2025 as far as the papaya coloured team. How can they then institute for team orders? You think they can give 20 million a year to Oscar Piastri and then tell him to bend the knee to Lando Norris? Absolutely flipping that, I'm telling you. And they asked him in Drive to Survive, didn't they? Are you happy, no content to be a second driver at McLaren? The answer from Piastri was short, matter of fact, to the point. He answered in a negative. No, absolutely not. And this 20 million that McLaren have just thrown at him is proof positive of that. He's going to get techie going into 2025, chat. And I cannot wait for one to see whether Oscar Piastri can deliver upon the promise of his unfulfilled potential at his home Grand Prix in a couple of sleeps' time. Oh, the humanity.